every week which side's left, which side's right. Every fucking week I have to check. It's like I think I'd get it.
I have to check like which side is left, which side is right of my body, of the world.
Okay, good. I feel a little bit better now.
So, okay, yeah, all right.
Righty tighty, lefty loosey. That's awesome. Oh my god, I love it. Oh man. Hey Matt, Joshua made me cry. I just thought I'd say that.
You're welcome.
I doubt Matt is surprised at that.
Well,
okay. Whew. Okay. Stop sniffing. I took an
Adderall.
No, I wish I should. Except that might put me to sleep. I took a Claritin D because I don't know.
The
are you having?
D.
Yeah, I always need the D. Are you having allergy
Oh
issues?
yeah, big time.
Okay.
I don't do the drugs though. I don't like them.
I love drugs.
Yeah,
you don't do any drugs at all?
They make me loopy. Well, the
Claritin D?
Yeah, like I'm just not a big drug person. I don't do drugs. Like
I do so many drugs.
Like
not really.
It's just not. It's not my jam. I don't know. I'd rather push through it.
Yeah,
Makes
that's
me feel
you.
like a
You're
man.
a warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really want to push through like my eyes watering and my nose pouring like a sieve, but
No, I get it.
Okay. Yeah, I take. You know what? I take a lot of like herbs and shit. No, you are. You're very judgmental. I take a lot of like insane herbs because of the Lyme shit, and I don't even know if that shit works.
Like
but
oregano and
thyme. Yeah. I take oregano and thyme, or turmeric in a pill, not in food seasoning.
Don't just take a teaspoon of
Oh
turmeric.
God! I can't imagine anything more terrible.
Well, have you ever had? Do you drink milk?
Most of the time, no. Most of the time, it's like a almond milk or something.
Because almond milk would work too. There's something called golden tea.
Water.
If you heat milk, or almond milk would work, and turmeric and like a hot chocolate, but it's and you put sugar in there too. And
you have to put some in there because that would taste like
it's not
asshole.
No, but it's kind of like it's a bitter that contrasts like a chocolate would. It's not
interesting.
It's not
like chocolate. I know chocolate, what you're saying,
but the flavor differences,
right?
It's good.
I have heard of golden tea. It's a big yoga thing.
Oh, sure.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Before we start actually talking about the case, I had a conversation this morning via text and audio messages from a beautiful Indian actress who worked behind the desk at Black Dog Yoga, and then she's like a very busy working actress. And a friend of mine in Kentucky loves her and sent me a text of a screenshot of her television with Sarah Yu in a new series on I think on Netflix. Anyway, I sent it to her and said, "You are loved everywhere, including Kentucky." And then she messaged me back and said, "I thank you. That's really sweet. I have had a really shitty day." And it turns out her shitty day was a friend kind of not honoring her boundaries. And she said, white women yogis who are always saying love and light and think that brown women are angry. And I'm like, I'm a white woman. And she goes, "Oh, not you."
Not you. Yes.
I know, it's hilarious. Yes. I'm like, "Do you have one of me in your front yard holding a lantern?"
Right.
A white woman jockey?
White woman, yeah. I need a white girl with a nose ring.
Fuck off. It's not a ring, it's a stud.
Oh,
anyway, yeah. Yeah. It was just funny. I was like, ouch. But then she was like, "Oh, not you." She's like, you're authentic. And I'm like, well, I still identify as a white woman. I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, the day is young, but it was just really funny. I just had to say that was just so funny.
I like it.
She was like, and her mother is like the most, she calls her Mama Rao. Her last name's R-A-O, but she married Jonathan Blue. So now it's Sarah Yu Blue. But she says Mama Rao. She's like, words of wisdom from Mama Rao. And she did like little videos of her mom. And her mom is like the most dark, depressing, negative human being in the world. And she's like, it's like my mom always said, don't trust anyone. And I sent back capitals. No, Sarah, that's stupid. And you know it.
Oh.
And I go, when is your mom starting her motivational speaking tour? Mama Rao, never trust anyone. And she sent me back like a shitload of laughing emojis. She's like, you're right. I'm like, don't you dare not trust anyone because you're bitter mother.
Right.
And she's like, you're right. I've done a lot of work at therapy to distance myself. And I'm like, you should. Yeah. Anyway, we've all got our shit. Yep. I made Joshua cry. I just wanted to let you know that, Matt. Not the first time, won't be the last.
It's not like that's that hard, though.
Oh, darn. I thought you were going to say, you always make me cry or something.
Good morning, Matt.
Yeah, it's not really crying. It's just like allergy nose. All right. I've managed to suck up all
the bumper time?
No, all my snot. Yeah, thank you for the bumper time. Okay. Oh, yeah. I got to figure out, what do I say at the beginning of this stupid thing every week?
From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California.
All right. You know it much better than me. Stop it, Gary Owen. Whatever. All right. Okay. From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. With me today is my handsome and talented co-host, Baby J, up in these streets.
Up in these streets.
Also known as Joshua Bevan. His street name is Baby J.
Baby J, yo.
If you haven't seen the John Mulaney special,
so good.
Yeah, it's called Baby J.
I mean, it's that he nails that like
addiction lifestyle.
Yeah, well, I mean, he had a bad rap, obviously. Mm-hmm. Everybody, he says something about everybody hates me, or mm-hmm. whatever. And I mean, nobody hates him. Yeah, he's a national treasure. Yeah. And he just comes back and he's on it, and then mm-hmm. and he talks beautifully about addiction and mm-hmm. and all of that whole getting clean thing. It's hard, and he makes it good and funny, and nails it. He does, and he doesn't whine. And you're right, it is hard, but he doesn't point out all of that. He basically takes ownership of all the shit he did. Totally. So yeah, it's Baby J, John Mulaney. I think it's Netflix. I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I wish I had a cough button because that. I'm like swallowing all my air. So a wonderful quote I read this week, and Lord knows I love me some Oscar Wilde. Murder is always a mistake. One should never do anything that one cannot talk about after dinner. Perfect. I like it. I think that's words to live by. I really, really do. I mean, yeah, just don't do it. How about that? Well, yeah. There are other options. Whether you're going to talk about it or not, don't. Right. Yeah. And the thing is, most of the time people talk. That's why we do this podcast, is somebody knows something, and whether they think it's important or not. I'm going to give you 2 numbers at the end of this, and I really hope if you know anything, even something you think isn't important, it might be very important. Totally. So I just wanted to say I hope you're really happy, Joshua. I have neighbors threatening to sing show tunes to me. Oh, boy. Because of my hatred of musicals. So I'm going to blame you. You're welcome. We talked briefly about Chicago on the podcast, and now neighbors are coming at me. Oh, no. And I'm so ignorant when they go, I hear you like musicals. I'm like, no, I don't. No. And the wife is like, I'm sorry. I told him about the podcast. I'm like, yay, Joshua. Awesome sauce. All the it's high school musical season. We can. Is it really? Yeah. There's a season? Well, I mean, it's. Do you bring a gun? How many do you pick off? Do I need a license? Is there a High School Musical gun license? I was going to invite you. Yeah. Don't ever do that. Don't do that. Here's the musical I loved. Hamilton. End of story, period. That's it.
because it's a hip opera, and because I am madly in love with Alexander Hamilton.
That
I mean, yeah, I don't, yeah. So that's it.
Okay.
Pretty much
Done.
Yeah. Yeah. No Chicago.
Okay.
No, none of that shit, please.
Okay.
I think I was traumatized by like Elvis movies.
Elvis, you dislike Elvis movies?
No. Well, they're not, none of them are great. But when I was a kid, those ones that they put him in. Oh, really?
Oh, Elvis movies
like
were amazing.
Blue Hawaii? No.
Oh my gosh.
The fact that it was like as a kid, like seeing them on TV, and they were obviously older, than me, 60s, 70s. I would watch them and be like, he has a beautiful, I mean, I was a kid and I was like, he has a beautiful voice, but why do they put him in this vehicle where he has to break out in song for no fucking reason? I didn't understand that's what musicals were. I was like, why the fuck? Good. Why the fuck? He's like handsome and, maybe he's not the best actor, but he's cute and they put good people around him. And then, he walks in and he has to go, I'm home. Nobody does that. Nobody breaks into song when you walk in the door.
And that's part of that's part of my love. I love that in musicals these characters are so singularly motivated. They have very few emotions, and those emotions are so intense that they come out. They have to sing it, and that's how they should. You're staring at me.
I am staring at you, very wide-eyed, because those people just need to be medicated. That isn't that they have so much in them it has to come out in song. They need help and medication.
Okay.
Okay, I'm done now. All right.
I'm not taking. I was joking about taking you. I wouldn't try and take you.
Oh, thank you. I'm very happy about that.
I will actually drive to the breakfast spot. I'm not gonna take you.
Would I have to listen in your car?
No.
Okay.
No, I keep the radio off when people are in the car.
Okay. All right. Mark and I had a deal. Whoever was driving got control of the radio.
Sure, that's.
And he would listen to right wing wacko talk shows, and I would listen to old school hip hop.
Perfect.
So yeah, it was like. By the way, have you ever noticed the connection between Tupac Shakur and Alexander Hamilton?
No. Do we have time to you enlighten me right now, or is this like after
it's a longer
the broadcast?
Conversation, but I'm working on potentially doing a podcast about an episode, about the murder of Alexander Hamilton.
Huh. Okay.
And, these men were both, their mothers were very influential in their lives. They wrote their way out of poverty.
Right.
They were both fucking shot.
Right.
Probably by people they knew. He knew Aaron Burr. I don't know how well Tupac knew Biggie, but it wasn't actually Biggie who shot him, but you know what I mean?
I was going to say,
Biggie's people, fuck off. You know who did
this?
Yeah, I did. It's all mine. Just a theory, allegedly. Whatever. Anyway.
Wait, have you done a show about any of the hip hop artists that have been murdered?
No.
I think there needs to be a whole series.
Well, maybe we'll do that. I imagine I hear people shutting off whatever streaming service they're using right now. But yeah.
A streaming service that you can leave a review on?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're so smart. That I lost. If you would like to leave a review for us, it's a good thing if you have Apple Podcasts, but any place that you listen to us, that would be fantastic. It helps other people find us. And even though I could say this at the end, I'll say it now. If you have a tip on a missing person or unsolved homicide, or you just want to suggest a case like the murder of Tupac and Alexander Hamilton, you can give us a call at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837. And you can always find us on the social medias. jttipsters@gmail.com is our email address. Just the Tipsters Facebook page, at JT Tipsters on Instagram, at JT Tipsters Pod on Twitter. So yeah, that's just something I'm tossing around. I just was like, there's quite a connection between Tupac Shakur and yeah. So, just again going back to how terrible Joshua is, he
Oh, we weren't done with
no, we
that.
weren't done with
I'm
you.
still being re-rated. All
Mm-hmm.
right, perfect.
You sent me a meme that said "services provided:" and it's a meme that says, "If you ever get ghosted by a person you just slept with, give me their number. I'll call to tell them that we just found your body and they were the last person to see you alive, and then demand that they come into the station for questioning." And then Joshua says, "You have a lot of law enforcement connections. Why not start a side hustle?"
I like it. I like it
Yeah,
for you. A
that's
side hustle.
because that's who you are. I also want you to know that Tipster Michelle said she was disappointed in you for not making um, a very clear dick joke on National Hoagie Day.
Oh no, I'm sorry to disappoint,
Yeah,
Michelle.
I told Michelle I bet there were 7 in your head, except that I started talking and you didn't have the chance. She goes, "I was waiting for Joshua to make a hoagie/dick comparison." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Michelle. It's probably my fault."
Well, you did promise me the 12-inch.
I promise you nothing.
Later.
I didn't. I don't have a dick.
No, you said
Oh,
you
the
got a free
hoagie.
one.
Oh, I do. It's bigger than that, actually.
Oh.
It's like 18.
Oh my God,
I know.
that's enormous.
That's why. That's why we can split it.
Perfect.
Because yeah, I got a free one from Capriati's because of a issue that happened. Also, tips from Michelle loves Capriati's. She is in Arizona. And I
Oh,
thought
they're
they
all the
were
way out in
in,
Arizona.
yeah, I thought they were only in California. And
Nice.
she said she's like maybe 12 miles from one or something. And she said, "I just love when I get to go there." So,
Love it.
yes,
I
they
love
are
it.
very good. So, Joshua and I will be splitting an 18-incher, which I hope no one isolates that piece of audio and uses it as their ringtone or something, because that would be very, very,
Oh
very bad. So, our new patrons this week on Patreon, I'm just so grateful that it just keeps happening and people are so generous. Tipster Marcella came in at the True Detective level, and Tipster Michelle came in at the Unicorn level. And Tipster Marcella is originally from the Pacific Northwest, but she now lives with her beautiful family in my home state of Kentucky. And Tipster Michelle is the longtime friend I was talking about from Arizona, and she has sent several great cases. And she sends me stories and memes. Unlike Joshua, though, they make me happy. They don't make me worried or scared. But she's a light in my life, and I'm grateful for her.
Beautiful.
And she said she owes us a thank you for all that we do, and she does not. No one owes us a thank you. This podcast doesn't mean anything without you, beautiful listeners. So we owe you a thank you for supporting these two assholes who have microphones.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Michelle.
Yeah, okay. So one last announcement. Nicole Delamora's episodes of Evil Lives Here, Shadows of Death, I thought didn't come out till the 23rd, but actually came out on like the 16th. So by the time you hear this in a couple of weeks, you can get it on Discovery Plus or Amazon Prime. I couldn't get it on Amazon Prime, and I had a neighbor tell me that she found it on Amazon Prime, but you had to pay for it. But if you have Discovery Plus, you don't pay for it.
Okay.
But if you have Amazon Prime, it's like you have to pay for the episode.
Sure.
It's season 5.
It was actually on the ID network also.
Right.
That's what I recorded it off of.
Okay. See, because you're
DVR.
smart.
Yeah.
So it's episode 5 of season 5, and it's called City of Angels. And yeah, I bought a subscription to Discovery Plus because I couldn't find it, but I'll be canceling that.
That was it. That was the one show.
Well, yeah, I want to watch it, so I didn't watch it on the ID network, so I was like, I got to get it on Discovery Plus.
Perfect.
But she is a wonderful advocate for going on with your life when something terrible happens.
Yeah.
So okay,
beautiful human.
She is a beautiful human. So this was sent to us by No Shock by Tipster Suzanne, who sends amazing cases. Just like me, I think she has insomnia. So out of the blue, sometimes I'll get a text in the middle of the night, like, "Do you know about this case?" I'm like, "No, I didn't until now." So this is from 1995, but I do believe there are people out there who know, because I will tell you about some social media comments I've seen more recently that a little bit broke my heart. But I know people know, and I'm going to give you two numbers at the end of this. So Gail Russell had a boyfriend named Larry Podolsky, and they were living in Bayonet Point, Florida, and they had two sons. And here's the story, about 1 a.m. on Monday, September 4th of 1995, Larry's statement is that Gail got up to answer the door. There was a knock at the door. She got up to answer the door, and he remained in bed and fell back to sleep immediately.
Mm.
And then when he woke up in the morning, Gail had never returned to bed.
Oh, jeez.
Larry looked around the house and couldn't find her, and then he waited until 8 p.m. on Wednesday to report Gail missing.
So this is the 1 a.m. on Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
So he waited an entire 2 days.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
Now, he said the police told him that he had to wait 48 hours before they would take a missing persons report. The Pasco County Sheriff's Office says that has never been our policy.
Oh, okay. Oh boy.
Yeah. So Larry's not starting off, on a big platform of believability. So he even said, I tried at like 1 p.m. on Monday to report her missing, like 12 hours after the knock on the door. I'm just going to stop and say this, Joshua. Let's say you and your beloved are laying in bed and there's a knock at the door at 1 o'clock. Do you let her get up?
No, come on now. That was the first.
Right.
Yeah.
Or let's just say she does, like you're really tired or something. Do you then not go, hey, wait, it's been about 15 minutes, hope, or 5 or 3.
No, listen,
it wouldn't even be a question.
If there's a knock on the door at 1 a.m., I'm not going to sleep until 6 a.m. because my heart
Adrenaline.
is, yeah. Mm-hmm. Who's knocking on the door at 1 a.m.? What's going on?
But you don't send your female partner to answer the door.
No.
Got it.
No, I don't send
just
anyone else.
Right.
Anyone
one
else.
of the boys.
I'm
right.
I'm going.
The dog, your parents,
I mean,
whatever.
I might bring the dog with me.
Right. And a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I was like, what sort of piece of shit?
Oh, God.
And then when you hear later on an alternate theory, it breaks your heart. This just breaks your heart. So, yeah, what Larry says when he finally reports her missing to the Pasco County Sheriff's Office on Wednesday night, he said, everything was normal. Gail and I went out to a bar. We had the two boys at a babysitter. We went and picked the boys up, and then we came home about 12:30 a.m., went to bed, and then at 1, there's a knock at the door. So Larry and Gail had a tree trimming business. They worked together, and they had, there had been all this talk about them getting married, and she had a tiny ring. It was just like a band with a tiny diamond, and she had told other people that she wanted to get away from Larry, not that she would be ending up marrying him.
Mm-hmm.
And they had these two boys, and I have the feeling she wants, her boys to have a full family together.
Mm-hmm.
That's why she hadn't just like left. So of course, detectives do their due diligence. They look at hospitals. Is there a Jane Doe that was hit in the head, and doesn't know her name? They do psychiatric facilities. They comb the coroner's office, domestic abuse shelters. They, really do a lot of footwork. And there's no sign of Gail at all. So none of her friends or family had heard from her, and they know that she had left her. Sorry, Matthew. All the shit she left. You can't borrow that.
I can't borrow a pen.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Too late.
God damn it. I should have just paused this because I can't find it. Oh, here we go. She had left her driver's license, contact lenses, all of her clothing, and all of her belongings. So this suggested if she did leave, she wouldn't be going away for any length of time.
Sure.
But more importantly, everyone who knew her and loved her said she'd never leave her boys. She'd never leave her sons.
Okay.
So the spokesman for the Pasco County Sheriff's Office at the time, John Powers, told a group of reporters and investigators, look, we have covered everything that we know to cover. We haven't seen any signs of foul play. We're just hoping to locate Gail. And at this point, we have no reason to believe Larry Podolsky's version of events at this point. We have no reason to not believe
no
it.
reason to not to,
Yeah.
but
yeah. We just want her to get in touch with us, and we just want to know that she's okay. So, it's sort of weird. I mean, it's beyond weird. So 2 days after she is reported missing, Larry goes to the public assistance office and told the person working there that Gail had moved out of state. Oh, wait, hold on. Can you hear the...
I don't know if it will or not.
I know.
We gotta.
2 days after Larry reported Gail missing, he went to the public assistance office and told the clerk that Gail had moved out of state, and he needed them to transfer the family's monthly food stamp benefit from her name to his name. Moved out of state. Does any of this sound familiar? People who've maybe unalived their spouses and come up with really ridiculous stories about what happened. Yeah. So it was 2 weeks after Gail was last seen that detectives admitted to reporters, it just seems really unlikely that Gail voluntarily vanished. Her 2 sons, 2-year-old Brian, 4-year-old Joey, were the center of the world, and no one who knew her. People who knew her very well, people that didn't know her well, said she would never have abandoned them. Detectives spoke to more than 40 of Gail's relatives and friends, and they all said the same thing. She was a very loving and devoted mother, and she would never have left her kids. So Larry told detectives that he and Gail were engaged to be married and insisted that there was no problems in the relationship. He said, everything was going nice for us. We're getting back on our feet. And then this happens. I really don't know what to think. So I'd mentioned the gold ring with the tiny chip diamond. I think that must be her engagement ring, because that's one of the things listed that she was last wearing.
Got it.
No one who knew Gail, though, knew they were engaged.
Oh, he proposed.
Yeah, and she doesn't tell anyone, because you know how girls are.
Yeah,
they keep it to themselves.
They totally keep it to themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to just let this out. Yeah. Yeah. So it's 3 weeks after Gail goes missing, and Larry, tells reporters, I'm very emotionally upset. At first, I thought maybe she left me for another guy. I'm really upset about it. One minute I would be crying, and the next minute I would be angry and think, if she wants to be with someone else, fine. But I finally realized I need to go on with my life.
That's it. Okay.
3 weeks after she's gone.
Yeah, that's a good amount of time.
Yeah. Larry said that I know.
Stop looking.
Yeah,
it's been 3 weeks.
It's been 3 weeks. It's over. Can't live in the past. Larry did tell police that, I wonder if... No, wait. Sorry, Matt. Larry said he was aware that police thought Gail had been a victim of foul play, and he knew he was considered a suspect, but he kept insisting he had nothing to do with her disappearance. He said, you know what, Gail has left voluntarily, and that she took $245, which was our bill money for the month, and that was missing the same time she was, and he blamed her. I think it's really good to blame a missing person. Hey, she left and took $245. She's probably starting a new life.
That's enough.
Yeah, it's usually enough, right?
Oh boy.
Yeah. So it's not like things were perfect between them. They didn't have some perfect relationship no matter what he said. Larry had been arrested in July of 1995. They got into a fight in the parking lot of the perfect restaurant you get in a fight, the parking lot of Taco Bell.
Oh.
Even a little bit lower down the rung than Applebee's, but Applebee's was a good guess. Nope, Taco Bell. Yeah. So he was charged with assault, but then the charges were dropped because Gail didn't want to press charges, and then she changed her story, and then she was arrested for filing a false police report. Isn't that nice?
Boy.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And Larry was like, it was no big deal. We just had a fight because we'd both been drinking. And he said,
well, of course. Why else do you go to Taco Bell?
Because you've had too much loudmouth soup. Yeah. go to Taco Bell because you have no regard for your insides. You don't care about your
You want
bowels
your
or
insides to be
right
outside.
outside of your body, living outside your body. So Larry said that he and Gail hadn't had any problems since that parking lot fight.
Okay.
But Gail's stepmother, Stephanie Russell, said, you know what, Gail and Larry have been having problems for a while. I don't know why he's saying this. So Larry has his two parents, and they help him with some of the bills and taking care of the two boys, because he's on his own now.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, this has been really hard for them. My youngest son, Brian, doesn't quite understand it. My oldest keeps asking me questions, but I don't know what to tell him. Maybe she just needed some time away. And we're going to hear from Joey Podolsky, Larry's son, named after his own father, Joe. And it is, Joey is probably 32 or 33 now. And it is heartbreaking what he has posted on social media. So Gail's family members are like, look, she has absolutely been a victim of foul play. She is a loving, caring, warm person, and she loved those boys so much, and her actual mother, Patricia, said, Gail has been unhappy for a long time, and she was planning on leaving Larry, not marrying him.
Mm-hmm.
Gail's stepmother agreed with her mother and said, you know what, she had contacted Patricia at some point before she disappeared and expressed fear and concern for her situation. Gail said she didn't want to marry Larry. She just didn't want to get married. I don't want to marry him. I want to leave.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt. On September 24th, a couple of weeks after Gail went missing, Gail's relatives visited Larry at his house and accused him of killing Gail. It's like an intervention. Larry said he and his two sons had been at a neighbor's house watching videos in the morning, and they got home, and there were three men standing in the front of the house waiting for him.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. David Russell, Philip Russell, and Arthur Levine.
Not the Russell brothers.
The Russell brothers. And they went into the house with Larry and sat him down in the living room and said, we want to talk to you. Larry and David, who is Gail's older brother, Matt. Larry said David, who is Gail's older brother, confronted him and demanded to know where Gail was. We know you killed her. Just tell us where her body is. Now, Larry said that David grabbed him by the neck and started to choke him. And David said, oh, I admit we went to Larry's house, but we didn't attack him. David tells reporters that he didn't accuse Larry of being a murderer either, but he did ask him a few questions. We're very curious because nothing about his story checks out.
Yeah.
And he was very adamant that he hadn't put his hands on Larry. And the police were like, yeah, we believe you, so we're not going to file any charges against, three family members who show up to the place, the home of your missing relative and who's the last person to see him.
Right.
So months and months had gone by, and there's no word from Gail. And on her 31st birthday in February of 1996, so like 5 months after, her mother marks her birthday by announcing she's offering a $10,000 reward for any information leading to Gail's whereabouts. Additional family friends raised $35,000 more, so the total is $45,000.
Oh,
wow. Her mother, Patricia, said, I know she didn't leave voluntarily. I don't think she'd be gone 5 months without letting me or her father know. Right. We're afraid that something terrible has happened. The hardest thing is just not knowing what happened to her. It drives you crazy. God. Yeah. So detectives are very honest and say, you know what, we can't find any solid leads in this case. We don't know what happened to Gail. The PIO for Pasco County Sheriff's Department, John Powers, said to reporters, we're going to continue to run down leads as we get them, and maybe this reward will generate some more leads. So a new detective had taken over because so many years had gone by, and he interviewed 50 people. The original detectives interviewed 40. He interviewed 50 people and distributed 1,000 missing flyers. And he's like, nothing has helped. There's no indication that she was killed or abducted, nor is there anything to show she just walked away. Although, her family members are like, yeah, she wouldn't have done that. Larry did something. We know he did something. And there's no evidence. There's no evidence.
Huh.
Larry told reporters that February 11th wasn't just Gail's birthday, it was supposed to be their wedding day. Nobody in the family had heard that that it was they were going to get married that day. And he said, the kids and I are trying to cope with this loss. I'm pulling myself together the best I can. Larry is still blaming Gail for being gone and said, I have a lot of hurt and anger inside me because of what she's done. I have a lot of mixed emotions. Yeah. So it's, now a year has gone by and Gail's disappearance anniversary for a year. Her mother was like, yeah, you know what? Larry can move on, but I can't. She's always going to be in my heart, and I'm never going to put this message behind me. And Larry moved on, has a new girlfriend. It's actually by about 6 months after she went missing. So because that, Gail's family is sort of pretty adamant that he had something to do with it, he punished them the best way he can. He cuts off all contact with the boys. God. Yeah. And Patricia says, you know what? I, of course, miss seeing my grandsons, but I have to come to terms with the loss of my daughter. And I really believe that something bad has happened to her and she won't be coming back.
Man.
Yeah. So Detective Stanley, says, I've been in this business 35 years. This is my most frustrating case ever. Obviously, I'm not as frustrated as the family, but I think some days I can come pretty close. It's the first case of this magnitude that I have not been able to solve.
Wow.
So the family hires a private investigator, Mike Bird, and he comes to the conclusion after interviewing friends and family and neighbors, I believe Gail's the victim of a violent death. There's documentation she had been the victim of violence in her home, and we see an escalating pattern of violence and alcohol. When the private investigator is questioning her friends and neighbors, he finds out the neighbors were like, look, they had a lot of arguments and they were very frequent. The night that Gail vanished, we heard them fighting.
Oh.
Gail had told friends and neighbors, if something happens to me, please take care of the boys. I don't want Larry to have them.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. The private investigator said, look, I found that Larry destroyed some of his articles of clothing and he thoroughly cleaned the house right after Gail disappeared. Maybe that's why they didn't find any evidence of a struggle. Okay. He said, Larry is not willing to cooperate with the investigation. He won't let me interview him. I guess he lets the police interview him, but I guess after a certain amount of time, he cuts it off. And the private investigator, Bird, says there's a person out there who knows exactly what happened to Gail. Human beings don't just disappear off the earth. So Detective Stanley worked on Gail's case for years, and he got sidelined in fall of 1996. He was diagnosed with acute leukemia. Oh, no. He told reporters, I'm going to beat this cancer because I'm going to solve Gail's disappearance.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Nobody's going to take this case. It's mine. But unfortunately, about 8 months later, in July of 1997, he lost his battle with cancer.
Oh, no.
He was 58 years old. And Gail's mother, Patricia, said, I feel like I lost my best friend. Mm-hmm. He was so kind and so thoughtful, and he looked out for all of us, but he was so determined to find out what happened to Gail. At his memorial service, his son, James Stanley, who'd also become an investigator, he told the reporters and anyone who could hear him, listen to a voice whispering in your ear when you're working on this case. That's my dad. This case haunted him until the day he died.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So Pasco County Detective Jimmy Sessa took over the investigation and made it clear in Gail's disappearance, I'm considering Larry Podolsky the only suspect. We don't want to have tunnel vision. We want to continue to run down any new information, but all roads lead back to this individual. By February of 97, Larry had been arrested for violating probation on drug charges.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Gail's father, Dusty, and stepmother, Stephanie, were granted temporary custody of the two boys while Larry's in Pinellas County Jail. He was still in jail in July of 97, but he was not willing to cooperate any longer with investigators and refused to talk about Gail's disappearance at all. Detective Sessa said he has never acted like a man concerned about the woman he loved. It always seemed more like an inconvenience that we were bothering him with so many questions. Pasco County Sergeant Charles Calhoun said, "This case is really frustrating. We can say we believe this is a homicide and we believe we know who did it. We just can't prove it in court." Despite extensive searches in Gail's home, they found no evidence of any crime. They did a lot. I'm telling you, they did a lot. Cadaver dogs went through the yard. The septic tank was drained. The house was scoured for signs of blood, and they found nothing.
Yeah, wow.
So Larry's father, Joseph Podolsky, this is kind of funny and remarkably sad. He said, "There's no way my son did anything to harm Gail. He was always drunk or high. My son is not smart enough to do something like that and destroy every piece of evidence." Father of the Year.
Oh, man.
His theory,
oh, boy.
Gail always took great care of those kids. Yeah, thanks, Pops. Gail always took great care of those kids, but at times she wanted her freedom too. So Larry's, difficulties with the law didn't end there. In October of 2002, he was arrested because he broke into a hardware store and he hit a police canine officer, and that dog was sent in to apprehend him. And he did hold him down. And he wasn't like seriously injured. So he was charged with burglary and battery on a law enforcement animal.
Huh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But the dog held him down until deputies could cuff him.
Okay.
And this is the part that kills me. He regained custody of the two boys after he got out of jail, but he was never really able to get his life back on track. August 2004, he died of a drug overdose. He was 36, and now his parents have custody of his two children, which I'm guessing there was probably a pretty big, fight between his parents and her parents.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So the investigation into Gail's disappearance has, kind of stalled after Larry died. Most investigators are certain they know who killed her, but there's just not enough solid evidence to back up the story. That's why I'm going to ask for, some information if anyone has any and some numbers to give you. But Larry's dad, Joe, said, my grandson Joey was 4 years old at the time. And when his mother vanished, he told detectives 2 men came to the house, put tape over his mother's mouth, and then put her in the trunk of the car. Detectives disregard this, saying that he was too young to understand the situation and testify about it in court. I have the feeling that a 4-year-old could be easily influenced.
That was fed to him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Larry was asked on multiple occasions to submit to a polygraph, but he refused. 2 other men were given polygraphs, and both of them passed with no issues. No one's been questioned about the case in recent years. But Gail's family continues to hope that somebody will come forward with information needed to bring Gail home. So looking around, I'm already getting chills. Looking around in 2017, the Pasco County Sheriff's Department made Gail's case their featured missing person. And they have a very beautiful picture of her, and, are asking for information. And many people respond or comment, people that knew her, people accuse Larry and his son Joey, named after his own father. Comments many times asking, begging for anyone who knew anything about his mother to contact him because he wants to know her better. And when an aunt, one of Gail's sisters, said, we all know who did it, Joey says, I want a relationship with you, Aunt Karen, so badly. But I was there and I seen what happened. My father was asleep and there were several people that took her. It was dark and I do believe they were men, but I was so scared I couldn't see their faces for details.
Oh.
I was several feet away from her under the counter after walking out when I heard a knock on the front door. She didn't see me and she was already up to answer the door. I kind of hid under the counter by the door and I remember wanting to help my mom, but I couldn't move. I remember hearing her screaming and I looked around the corner and I could see out the door and they had her in the trunk of a yellowish hatchback. The door was left open and I remember as things got quiet, I when I could move again, I ran to wake up my father. He was snoring and I jumped on him and screamed, but I couldn't wake him up. I don't know who did this, but I know my father, and I don't know my father's part in this, if he had any.
Oh.
But I do know he was asleep that night and did not take her.
Wow. Okay. And okay, this is him recently when he's in his 30s. So
Yep.
this is
This was from 2019.
yeah,
So
okay.
he was late 20s.
Late 20s. Huh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
I could not feel worse for her boys. Obviously,
oh
her
man.
2-year-old can't remember. I remember things back from when I was 3, which a lot of people tell me is rare. I
Yeah,
know a lot of
it's
friends don't remember things until they were 5 or 6, like big events, like going to kindergarten or going to
sure.
first grade.
I've got little flashes at 3
Mhm.
and 4 of certain memories.
Mhm. I'm not saying Joey didn't remember
Yeah,
correctly the day or the time or what happened to his mother. It could be a lot of things. He could be 1,000% right.
sure.
Larry had drug issues. There could have been other late night knocks at the door that he woke up and remembered.
Sure, yeah.
He doesn't say anything in his comment on Facebook that I saw them put tape over her mouth. That
Mm.
was
That
back.
was when he was 4.
hmm All I know is this kid, this young man, is so real and
Yeah.
pleading for any information. It doesn't have to be information to solve her case. He wants
He wants
anyone
to know
who
her.
knew
Yeah.
his mother because he had so little chance to know his mother. So
That's heartbreaking.
here's where we ask for help from you. Gail Ann Russell was 30 years old when she vanished from Point, Florida in September of 1995. At the time, she lived with her boyfriend of 6 years, Larry Podolsky, and their 2 young sons. Gail and Larry had a rocky relationship, and Gail's mother said Gail intended to leave Larry and take the children with her. She never got the chance. Gail has brown eyes and brown hair, and at the time of her disappearance, she was 5 foot 6 inches tall and weighed 140 pounds. She was last seen wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt along with a gold ring with a small diamond. Gail has scars on her wrist and abdomen. If you have any information about Gail, please contact the Pasco County Sheriff's Office at 1 800 854 2862. If you want to remain anonymous, you can also call the Crime Stoppers number at 1 800 873 TIPS, 1 800 873 TIPS, and more cowbell.